Rome's military was such a successful dominating force that many other militaries were frightened to fight against them at war. Their fighting tactics were no match for those who would dare to fight them in combat. Their brutal skills in combat helped them conquer the Mediterranean world to Scotland. People couldn't believe how powerful and oversized their military was. Many of the Roman Republic depended on their military for any threats they had on Rome. The Romans decided to give all their hopes into the military just so that the empire they strongly worked hard for wouldn't fall. They encouraged women to give birth to boys for him to grow up and fight for his people. They even enlisted Roman citizens to join the military, and if they were fit for battle, they would fight alongside them in war. Rome's military in that era was debatably the longest surviving force with the best strategic military effective fighting tactics.
As the world before them had their own military tactics that dominated their unique environment on the battlefield, Rome was no different and would create their own formations that would prove most lethal based on their geographical location. Adopted from the Greeks, the phalanx formation was still being utilized. The phalanx consisted of heavily armed infantrymen, shoulder to shoulder, 16 men deep with the first 5 ranks spears extended, and the remaining overhead to deflect missiles. It was when Romans experienced the rugged terrain that made the phalanx problematic and sparked the tactical ingenuity of new formations. One of Rome's most famous formations was the testudo, or tortoise, when translated from Latin. It provided protection to soldiers, was a strong and tight formation, and was often used when approaching fortifications and during sieges. Soldiers could march directly up without being harmed because their front and side men interlocked their shields while the others held them overhead, creating a shell. The wedge formation formed a triangle with the front being the tip and charge using their gladius weapons for thrusting. This technique was used to crack open enemy lines. Skirmisher formations were not tight and rather widespread, with every other soldier taking a few steps forward or staggered. There were no gaps in this formation allowed soldiers to cross over any terrain.
Roman soldiers wore a linen undergarment. Over this, they wore a short-sleeved, knee-length woolen tunic. Romans originally believed that it was feminine to wear trousers. However, as their empire expanded into territories with colder climates, soldiers were allowed to wear leather skin-tight trousers. Roman soldiers wore armor made of metal strips. These strips were hinged and laced together to allow for the maximum amount of movement during battle. Around his neck, the legionary wore a scarf to protect his skin from the metal armor. At first, Roman soldiers wore bronze helmets. However, they did not provide adequate protection against the swords used by the barbarians, and they were replaced by helmets made of iron. The shield that the soldier carried was made of thin strips of wood glued together. To give it extra strength, the grain of each strip was at right angles to the piece next to it. The surface of the shield was made of iron or bronze. After losing several battles to the barbarians, the Romans altered the size and shape of the shield to give the body more protection. The officers wore cloaks to distinguish themselves from ordinary soldiers. The color of the cloak would depend on their ranking. The Roman military was the most successful and powerful in history, dominating the Western world for over 1,000 years. The size, strength, and organization of their infantry force wouldn't be equaled again for another 1,000 years. The Romans believed themselves to be descendants of Mars, literally the sons of the war god. They were a proud and uncompromising people who, above all else, excelled at the art of warfare.